Standard with Joe.
This comes from The Independent. Attack on National Guard in Washington, D.C. An attack against Americans on American soil by someone who wasn't American. Rahmanullah Lakanwal, a 29-year-old Afghan national, was taken into custody after 2 National Guard soldiers were shot in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday afternoon. One of the 2 victims, Sarah Beckstrom, has since died of her injuries, while the other, Andrew Wolfe, remains in critical condition in the hospital, and to this day, he is still in critical condition. In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, President Donald Trump lashed out at the suspect, calling him an animal, describing the incident as a monstrous ambush-style attack. As investigators look into the motive, there are growing questions about how the Afghan national, who once worked with the CIA, ended up as the suspect of a deadly attack. So they're looking into the motive. And I can guarantee you they probably won't come to the logical conclusion of most of these terrorist attacks. The motive is religiously orchestrated. Now, that's not saying that every single Muslim is going to desire to harm other people. I'm sure there's plenty who are kind and nice and who wouldn't hurt a butterfly. But far too often do we see people who are extremely religiously motivated committing terrorist attacks within the United States, within the UK, within various parts of Asia and Africa. It is such a trend, and it's amazing that nobody's catching on to this. Why not? It's been happening for thousands of years. And in the last decade, it has been very, very clear that Islam promotes some very violent activities. Though not all Muslims agree with those ideas, not all of them interpret their scriptures or their sunnahs that way. There are many who do. And that's why many of these things happen. And let me show you why we can see that this is probably religiously motivated instead of beating around the bush and trying to figure out some other explanation. This is according to the New York Times. Nearby, a National Guard major was doing rounds to check in with troops posted nearby, heard the gunfire down the block. Despite not having a weapon himself, he looked towards the chaos and saw Lakanwal had spotted him. So this is a man who was just nearby. The terrorist spots him. The major ducked behind the car, pulled out his only defense he had, a pocket knife, according to sources who spoke to CBS. When Lakanwal paused to reload, the major leapt out from cover, turned the ambush back on the attacker, stabbing the alleged terrorist in the head multiple times and bringing him to the ground. Conservative lawyer and strategist Mike Davis reported from law enforcement sources. During the initial attack, the major allegedly heard Lakanwal yelling "Allah Akbar," which is God is great, the Muslim phrase commonly yelled by Islamic extremists carrying out terrorist attacks. Why is he yelling Allah Akbar? Because he has a religious motive. He's not doing this because he thinks it's necessarily political, although I'm sure it has something to do with politics. It is also intertwined with a religious motive. Otherwise, he wouldn't be calling on a religious name and wouldn't be making a religious extremist chant, Allah Akbar, which some Muslims use that as a non-religious chant, as it does mean God is great. We see it happen in terrorist attacks all the time. Obviously, there was an extremist Islamic narrative that was pushing this man to commit these acts. Just like when we saw on New Year's of 2025, a man went to Louisiana, I believe it was New Orleans, on New Year's Day, drove a truck into a crowd, started shooting at many, many people, shouting Allah Akbar, who is later also shot by the police. We see this happen over and over and over and over and over again. When are we going to wake up to the reality that is troubling the Western world? A belief system, an ideology that is totally against us and our values. Whether we be Christian, whether we be atheist or secular, whether we live good lives, or whether we live immoral lives, this ideology is going to be against us because we do not submit to it. But rather, we should submit to truth. We should submit to freedom. We should submit to the one and only true God who's revealed in this book. And with all that said, it doesn't end there. Another Islamist from Afghanistan, Mohammad Dawood Alokozay, I can't pronounce that, also was charged the day before the DC shooting, so the day prior, after he posted a TikTok video that he was building a bomb and posed a threat to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Alokozay came to the United States as part of Operation Allies Welcome under the Biden administration, according to the DHS. So two guys from the same country, one committing a terror attack, the other planning a terror attack. Luckily, that guy was subdued and taken into custody before he could do it. I wonder if he had the same motive. Most likely. We will find out. Now, with all this said, Jesus did tell us that the world will hate us for believing in him. It hated him first, it's going to hate us. Why did it hate him? Because he testified that his works were evil. And so the world hates us, those who believe in Jesus, because we testified that the works in the world are evil. But we don't carry out our beliefs with violence, we carry them out with sincerity and truth and clarity, that people themselves may change and not just be eliminated. And so we need to remember the world's going to hate us. That's what Jesus said it would do. Why? Because we testify that his works are evil. Let's not be mamsy-pamsy Christians who aren't willing to judge a society or judge another person for sin, but rather let's judge our own sin and then let's go and judge others so that the world can be corrected. We testify that the works of the world are evil. We make a judgment call. We do not condemn others and wish other people to go to hell. We wish them to have eternal life. And in doing that, we call them to turn from their sins. Let's obey the words of Jesus and be like Jesus in this matter.